Are we live? Looks like it. But I'm not seeing you there, so I'll do the usual operation. Waiting for you to come also. Yes, a little bit at least. Okay. Now we are in. Yes, and I'm seeing you, Julieta, already. Thank you very much for stopping by. Thank you for your time, your attention, your understanding on purpose, your striving for that understanding, and all the dimensions of it. That's our major theme in these lives. We are dealing with purpose. How can we live our own purpose in the very best way possible? How can we expand our perception of what is needed in order for that to take roots into our own lives in all those areas that we feel that purpose is needed. And I believe it's in all life areas that we need purpose. We need to use the lens of purpose to consider how can we express ourselves ever truthfully, ever greater, ever better, more complete, and more able to make the difference in whatever that roles and perspectives and participations may be. So today we are going to speak about moving awareness. We are going to explore some senses about moving awareness. Can you put on the comments or as questions or as remarks, what do you think moving awareness can be? What is moving awareness for you? When you think about the term, the expression, moving awareness, what comes to your mind? I will many things come to my mind, of course, and I will use them as signposts for our exploration here today, because we know that awareness is what is needed, or at least if we don't know that, we should. Awareness it is really what's truly needed in order for us to progress and express ourselves ever more into our purposeful life, taking full charge of that purposeful expression of life, as using us to do so, because we know life is a universal way of all that is coming into being, into this realm that we call world, universe, and that use us as humans as focal points of distribution posts, if you like, in order to get the sense onto itself in ways that go beyond our understanding as humans and as persons. Now I see your remark or question, Julieta. Focusing awareness in the different fields of our existence? Yes, but even beyond that, we can consider many dimensions. I will not make cookie cutter type of treatment onto this session, because, for instance, we can consider that ancient philosophy, the classic Greek philosophers, they had their own praxis of thinking by walking around. They made several of their own discussions, their talks, their debates, their rhetorical questions and answers, going for a stroll with one another. Teachers go for a stroll with students, with other teachers, mentors with mentors, mentors with mentees. They went exploring the moving side of human expression as we know by walking, yes, in order to fully grasp better the implications of awareness into their thought processes. And now, today, we know scientifically several studies that show that there is a correlation between physical movements and our own thought processes, our own cognition ability, which tends to be expanded in several different senses. Many studies address those triggers of awareness that are expanded. For instance, in certain types of nervous centers being activated on the plant foot when we walk, and that translates into better brain processes and synapses taking place. Others stress the role of expanded breathing, oxygen intake that expands, one more time, the ability of our body to move nutrients onto all our sense perception apparatus, not only in the nervous system but in the circulatory system. I'm sorry, into parasympathetic system, sympathetic system, all sorts of human systems that are favored by moving physical movement, deliberate physical movement, and not so deliberate. And there are many instances. I'm recalling a scene in a movie with Tom Cruise. I don't remember the title of the movie. It was a movie with Tom Cruise and the actress from G.I. Jane. I'm forgetting her name. Oh, I'm getting some blanks right now. Maybe I'm needing some movement. And Tom Cruise says something like they were preparing a case, a court case, to defend a military person who was being attacked. I don't know if you recall the movie. And Jack Nicholson was on court also, yes, in that movie. And Tom Cruise at the time he said, "Oh, I'm walking with my bat. I can only think walking with my bat, like a baseball bat that he had in his hands." And because it helped him think. And there are many instances of seeing that physical movement as such expand our own abilities of creating balances, not only in health issues, but on physical health issues, but getting a sense on ideas as a creative practice for writing, for come across with new ways of seeing things, solving problems, and many other differentiations of that awareness dimension. So, and of course, I believe it's very important at these times that we are already onto the social isolation COVID-19 context, somewhat prolonged, and some of us, at least I believe so, the vast majority of us are having much less movement than needed. And so that can impair our own awareness. I don't know if my memory, trying to recall that movie with Tom Cruise and Demi Moore, I recall her name, the actress name, if my awareness is being impaired because I'm getting less physical movement these days. So I will try to, I will put some solutions. I'm already put those solutions into place. But the main issue is awareness as depicted in all walks of life across history is interdependent and related with movement onto the thought forms and awarenesses that can channel and then can bring forth that awareness. That's the thing, that's the issue, that's the main issue here. In this Lila, like Hindu said, in this big game of life, this planetary game that we, humanity, participate with other all nature life forms, this Lila depends completely around movement, around moving our own perception. And like we've talked in several other lives, our own awareness depends on our point of view. And our point of view can even, and mostly, sometimes, many times, be a question of physical perspective on things. The way you see your city living in the 3rd floor is completely different from the guy living the 10th floor or the 20th floor, if you live in a building with that type of view. The concrete possibilities of vision are affected by the physical place we are in. And with that, all cycles of understanding, of perception, of reflecting about reality as we see it, as we perceive it, changes. So, and you can see all sorts of metaphors and symbols that try to convey the idea that in the universe, in life, everything is in flux. And when we talk about the river of life or the tree of life, we can have the idea of life flowing from a center as such, or from a fountain as such, and spreading their energy into all corners of reach. But if you think about your body, our human body, like our circulatory system, our blood is such a complex system that our billions of cells all get their fair share, if everything is okay, of course, if we are healthy. All our cells get their fair share of energy, of life nutrients that our blood brings to them, that is pumped from the heart and that goes toward all places in our body. So that movement is completely needed in order for life to take its hold onto ourselves, to have its place. And so we know that stopping equals death. The principle of death is stop. When things stop, things are dead, at least in the inside perspective of things. Not to be confused with serenity, not to be confused with regeneration, quietness. In that type of stop, it's really is a quote-unquote stop. It's not a real stop. It's coming across other type of movements arising and taking their place into deeper dimensions of life and deeper dimensions our own expression, our own being. So we just shifting the places on which those movements take place, the deeper dimensions, the nature systems on our own being are favored by those external choices of quietness, of stillness, of paying attention, of not stressing, going towards one place and the other in a succession of doings that our modern life tend to have. So, nonetheless, movement is completely critical for all forms of life taking place, and yes, including economy. We are seeing the consequences of our economic stoppage, and of course, this can signal other necessities for change, for deep structural change around the economy. But we know that circulation for sure must have a place in whatever form of economic or financial activity organization may arise in the future. We don't know at this time, for instance. No matter what type of system we may have flux in that system. We must have circulation of energy, no matter what type of energy that may be. It is direct contribution without money, like some more avant-garde theories profess, or is without money. I don't think the problem is in money, to be honest. The main issue is not in money. The main issue is in our awareness, perception of money. The main issue is in distribution of wealth created around the agents, the participants of that wealth creation. It's not as in money as such, in my perspective. Of course, money is an intermediation. If we can find some other more direct ways of making proper distribution, just fair distribution of wealth creation, assuring that all forms of life, including humans, of course, have their fair share and their needed share for have a life with dignity, with creative expression, according to their own needs and nature, according to their purpose, of course. So that's the thing. That's the main issue. That's not the ways in the movement. Or the tools of the movement. It's not in the externals of it. It's a principle. It's in the principle. We need movement in order to expand our own development in the manifest sense of it. That's the point of view I'm stressing right now. Because if we are talking about the intangibles of life, the rules are different. The main rule is we are already perfect as we are. So we just need to access that perfection and bring that perfection forward to all other things. And that's the marriage, the coupling that I'm trying to make in other transmissions, in other lives, in awareness practices, mindfulness, presence. That's the thing, and that's an irrevocable dimension in order for us to have a balance and equanimity type of expression that couples fulfillment with realization. When we talk about this type of consideration, we must never lose that equilibrium from our own sight. And so please, my dear friends, please express your own opinions if you like, bring your questions, bring your remarks, or send me a message, a private message if you'd like. But now in this live I only answer things that are put here onto the comments. So please go forward. The main issue is our awareness is influenced by movement, and movement, of course, doesn't belong also into the more in the physical realms, and we shouldn't make it so. We can move, and we should. It happens one way or the other. Movement can happen in all dimensions. Emotional beyond the physical, emotional dimension, mental, intellectual dimension, and in the spiritual sense of dimension, It's a different type of movement. It's a different type of movement, but there is a movement. Yes, indeed there is still. But we need to shift and to learn to shift our own things inside and outside of us if we want to actualize and go forward in development, in expression, ever more. For sure, if I'm pissed off or mad, pardon my English, about something, and that if I'm holding onto a grudge, onto unforgiveness, or into something negative, I need to learn how to make a movement, a deliberate movement, in order to go beyond that that feeling, that emotion, or else I will be stuck. I will be stuck on that place, and that's the unfortunately that's one of the tragedies of many of us. We don't know how to go forward. We don't know how to forgive. We don't know how to transmute, like I've told yesterday, our own state, and then we cling onto things, and then the greater intelligence can't operate. We lose our energy that were can be put forward into creative stuff, like creating our own reality, changing the things we don't like instead of complaining, instead of lamenting those. That's the thing. Now I'm reading from you, Julieta. If there's stagnation, like lack of movement, would it lead to permanent death or a potential explosion? Well, it will create some sort of pressure in the sense of, or can create some sort of it all depends, taking a step back, it depends on what is the flux of life as such onto onto the form or into the process that's taking place. So the lack of movement doesn't equal stagnation, but let's assume that there is. In that sense, if we are got into stagnation because of lack of movement, that can, of course, make like a dam that blocks the flux of water, or in this case of energy, or it can function, or it can digress energy, not attracting energy anymore, and that part tends to shut down. And so these are the two main scenarios in this sense: the accumulation type of scenario leading to explosion, like a burst of anger that arises when I take it from my boss or from my colleagues or whatever, and I don't process that energy, and that one day I lose control of myself, and then I have a burst of anger. This is an example of explosion. Or in the other sense, it's the sense of dormancy, in denial type of sense, that I can lose my sensitivity because I can't take it anymore, and then I start to kill some types of functions onto my awareness, my perception, my emotional availability for others, and then picking that example that I put forth here, and then I tend to lost the feeling of being alive, and then that's not that doesn't work either. So I don't know if I answered your question. Please make some other remarks if you need. I'll be glad to. Yes, but the thing is, if we don't consider the dimension of movement, of going forward, and of calibrating our own ways of interacting with life, and in creating the things we want to create, then the mechanism of the destructive mechanisms tend to rise. Like I've told you, in one of the major traditional wisdom theories that there is, like in Kabbalah, they talk that all is energy, all is love. Love is energy. If we don't use love, if we don't use energy in a proper way, or we'll lose it or we'll destroy it as such. And that is evil. Evil is like an attribute that doesn't turn into a quality because it doesn't get its proper, its fair share of applying into reality. And so it is lost or perverted, rotten in a sense. So that how the evil is produced in a sense. I will speak about it in another transmission. Yes, the next transmission. I'm getting over myself. I'm going a step forward. The next transmission is about dealing with evil. Yes, that's the following transmission. My dear friends, if you don't have any other questions, I believe the main idea is already delivered onto you. Moving awareness is a remark that can and should be onto our radars. Sensing if we are dealing with those dimensions coupled together. Are we acknowledging the importance of movement in all sorts of ways that it can go forth? Are we in condition for doing so? If not, what should we do? What measures will we take around those? And I believe this is important as a filter, as a lens of dealing with several issues that we have at the moment arising from this COVID-19 context. Yes, arising to our containment being lifted off or reinforced, who knows, ahead, or stopped, or changing in ways of having them. We don't know still. We know what is in front of us right now, which seems like a global release movement for the people, economy, society as a whole go forth, solving the other issues that are arising on the process. But this is not a COVID-19 context type of predicament. It is a global, total necessity of our own lives, like we've seen, including our own life systems into our bodies from our own thought and awareness processes as such, in order for living our own creative expressions, our own creative abilities, and accessing ever more capabilities onto ourselves. So, my dear friends, thank you so much. Thank you very much for you that watched this live. Tomorrow, like I've said some minutes ago, we are going to talk about dealing with evil. How do we deal with evil? What is evil? And how do we can have the very best way of dealing with that dimension of reality that we call evil. So, thank you one more time. Talk soon. Take care.